I was in a cafe a few months ago with one of my friends. She's the sort of person who prefers savoury over sweet. I don't really know why we're still friends. She's nice enough. She ordered a carrot cake, and I always think a carrot cake is such an abomination of a cake. It's like, it's got veg in it. Fuck off. Some people choose to put dates and nuts in it. You think, you're just removing all of the cake aspects. What you've got there is a shitty pasty. So she ordered a carrot cake, I ordered a slice of strawberry cheesecake. On top of her carrot cake was some icing and then a slither of something orange-coloured for decoration, I suppose. And I said to her, is that a bit of carrot? Fair assumption of being carrot cake. And she had a little nibble of it and she went, no, it's not carrot. I said, is it orange then? She said, no, it's not orange. I said, well, I'm all out of orange-coloured things. Unless it's the tail of a goldfish, I've got no idea. She had another nibble of it and she said, I think it's apricot. I said, oh, I can't have apricot. She said, why not? I said, I'm allergic to it. She said, ooh, what happens to you? I said, ooh, I get the shits. And she said, is it really bad? I said, oh, yeah, it was like a chocolate fountain down there. And she said, was that just off one? I said, no, I had a bag of them. She said, how many was in the bag? I said, I don't know, maybe 40. And it was only as I was telling her that I realised I'm not allergic to apricots. I'm allergic to 40 apricots. But I was on holiday with my sister last year, and I don't get to see my sister often enough, and it was lovely to have a week together, just the two of us. It was really nice. And at the end of the week, she said something to me that I'll always hold dear. She said, it wasn't until I spent a week with you that I realised how many meals you can have in a day. Because she had mistakenly thought that you had breakfast and lunch, or you had brunch. No. Breakfast, brunch, 11's is lunch. Afternoon tea, proper tea, dinner, supper. 11's is. And then a midnight snack that can last anything up to 8 hours. And a Milky Way whenever the fuck you like. But I've got a friend who's really good at cooking and baking, and I was on the phone to her, she was showing off a little bit. She knows some random food facts, and she said, did you know that sugar is a preservative? I said, ooh, I'll live forever then. She said, no, you'll probably die quite young, but you won't go off for ages. But she said to me, if you want to learn to cook, why don't I just come and stay for the weekend and I'll teach you some basics? And I thought, actually, it's a really good idea. She said, do you mind if before I come, if I email you a list of things I think you should have in your store cupboard? I've never called it my store cupboard in my life. It's always been the bean cupboard, because that's where I keep my tins of beans. But I was a good girl. I got everything in that she suggested. I ordered it online. I'd never ordered food online for delivery before. If you've never done it, give it a go. It's amazing. I typed it into a computer, and a man brought it to the house. Some of you are looking at me like, fuck off, it's real. Typed it into a computer, somehow a fella got the message, who had a van and some food, and he brought it. You're not taking it seriously enough. A man brought food to my house. It was like being in a restaurant, but I didn't have to have a bra on. Bit like Nando's then. Only a few weeks ago, my fella said to me, he said, your day-to-day is busier than mine. He said, do you want me to go and do a quick food shop? And I said, oh, that would be amazing, thanks very much. I said, I'm only here for a couple of days, so don't get loads in. He said, just give us a list. So I said, great. So I made him a list, off he went. When he came back in, he said, I managed to get everything off the list apart from one thing. I said, that's great, thanks very much. I started to unpack the bags, put them in the cupboard. And I said, what was the thing you didn't manage to get? He said, I didn't manage to get you any avocados. I said, oh, that's all right, don't worry about that. He said, so I bought you some pork pies instead. I said, I wish you worked for Tesco Home Delivery. We've run out of celery, so we've given you a Swiss roll. But he said the best thing about them, he said, they're whoops pork pies. I said, I don't know what that means. He said, they're whoops pork pies. He said, they're going to run out. We'll have to eat all 6 of them before we go to bed. Yes! But you know those cookie shops on the high street where you can get the normal sized cookies, but you can also get the bigger sort of celebration ones. He bought me one of those, celebration one, a few years ago for part of my Christmas present, and it was smashing. I was unexpected. It was great. And I opened the box and I said, "This is a great present. This is excellent." He said, "Oh, I'm glad you like it." It was all iced Merry Christmas, Sarah with kisses on. He said, "I'm glad you like it." He said, "There's only one drawback." And I'm looking at a cookie that's bigger than me head, thinking, there's no fucking drawback. He said, "There's only one drawback. It only lasts 5 days." I said, "It's like you don't know me at all." He said, "You didn't let me finish. It only lasts 5 days. And I bought it 4 days ago." He said, "Stop your fucking chatting and get the kettle on then." That's not a present, love. That's a challenge.
Are you an eager beaver or a late bloomer? If you're a late bloomer like me, then my new show is just for you. Late Bloomer is available now to stream and download from my website, sarahmillican.co.uk.